video. I am Vanessa and today I am going to present 10 projects that I'm planning to knit from my stash this year. Last week I gave you a little tour of my stash and showed you some things that I already own and explained to you that this year I am planning to only knit from stash. If you want to know my exact rules, you can watch the video from last week. I'm going to link it right here, so you have all of the informations that you need to understand what I'm talking about, instead of me repeating myself right here. But as a quick recap, I am planning to knit only from stash this year. I have a few exceptions, but they really aren't much. And when I was reorganizing my stash and counting all of my yarn, I also took the time to come up with some ideas to make with the yarn. And today I'm going to present you 10 project ideas that I want to make from my stash. I am not going to go too in-depth with every single yarn here. I'm not going to go into the quantities and qualities of the yarn. I'm just going to show you quickly and tell you what brand and kind of yarn it is. But I will give more details in my podcasts, of course, once I get to make the projects this year. Maybe it wasn't so smart to do this after reorganizing my stash, because now I had to pull out a ton of things again and have to put them away. And my stash cabinet is a mess again. I will have to put some time into putting these away properly and not just throwing them in there. So first up, I want to make a Sophie Scarf by Petite Knit with this Noro yarn. It's Noro Kanzashi and it's a boucle yarn in these jewel colored tones. If you don't know the Sophie Scarf, it's a very simple garter stitch scarf that's tapered on the ends and gets a bit wider in the middle. And my plan is to knit with this until I am halfway through this ball and then decrease, so I can use up as much of this as possible. Next up is a pattern that's already a bit older. It's the Zweig sweater by Caitlin Hunter. It's I think it's a drop shoulder construction, and on the yoke it has a section of lace that is knit in a different color. And for this I want to use some woolly knit British wool fingering weight yarn. I will have to look up the color of this, I do not remember. And this skein of Dornröschenskalle fingering weight sock yarn in the color Irish Fairy Tale for the color blocked section that is lace. And I think these go quite well together. This is a Havard green and this has some green and purple specks, which will hopefully make it look a bit whimsical and woodsy. Next up, I want to make the Marilyn Turtleneck by Fable Knitwear. This is actually a pattern repeat. I have already knit one of these last year and I wear it a ton, so I want to make another one to add to my wardrobe because it's just a very practical garment for me. And this is actually a 2-in-1 because I have 2 yarn quantities that I want to use to make this. The sweater is a basic turtleneck sweater knit in a fingering weight yarn, and it's just nice to layer under or over different garments. The first yarn I want to use to knit this is this Kiezgarn Merino Solist in the color City Spring. It's a grey with some green speckles and havering, and I can't wait to break into this. And I think this will be a nice color for spring as well as autumn, so I will get a lot of use out of it. The second yarn is another Noro yarn and it's the Noro Yukata yarn. It's this color changing purple, pink and green yarn. It has a lot of more plant fibers, and with this one I want to make a 3/4 length sleeve version of the Marilyn Turtleneck, and this one will be more of a spring to early summer sweater. I will also probably knit the turtleneck less high. I will, of course, as always, be linking all of these patterns in the description below, so you can find them right away on Ravelry or wherever I can find them. And I'm probably also going to link the yarn if I can remember where I got it, or at least which yarn I'm using or planning to use. Next up is another Fable knitwear pattern. It's the Ithilien Vest. That's just a very basic vest that uses up only one skein of mohair and one skein of fingering weight yarn held together. For this I am using this garden flower yarn hand dyed skein that's white with some more beige yellowish variegation and purple speckles, held together with this Kiezgarn one of a kind mohair that's also in a purple color. I think these will go very well together and give it an all over more purple look with some purple specks in between. And I know last year I knit a lot of Fable knitwear patterns, but this year I am hoping to expand the range of designers I use a little bit, because it got quite repetitive talking about the same designer all of the time. I really like her patterns and I really like the silhouette they give. I think that vintage silhouette quite suits me, but I do want to expand my range of designers. So a lot of these are even from designers I haven't knit from before. So I am excited to try some new things, and I hope it won't get too boring with repetitive patterns. Even if I do plan to knit some things that I have made before, it isn't going to be the biggest part of my knitting. The fifth thing I am planning to make is the cinema sweater by Kika. It's a very basic sweater. It's a bit oversized and it looks very cozy and will probably be a perfect staple item for my wardrobe. And I want to make it in this knitting for olive merino and soft silk mohair, both in the color copper. The designer, did I say that, is Kika or Veronica Lindberg. And the sixth pattern is another one by her. This one I have talked about in my last podcast episode, but I am going to show it to you again. I want to make the Salty Days sweater by Kika. It's an all-over cabled and patterned sweater that looks a lot of fun to knit because you are constantly changing the pattern, and I think it will be a very engaging knit that you won't be able to put down. For this I am holding 3 yarns together. One is this woolly knit hank of British wool. It's also a fingering weight wool, and the color is Aran Nap. It has this black tweed in it that will hopefully give the sweater a nice texture. And then for softness I am adding this soft cashmere by Lala Bala. That's a little shop in Venice that is very worth checking out. And this is just 100% cashmere in a beige yarn, in a beige color that will suit the other one quite well. And for even more softness, I'm also adding a mohair. And this is Nordic Sky Ulu. And it is a bit more grayish than the other yarn, but I think it will look nice with the naps, and they will complement each other quite well. Number 7 is the Cloudberry Tee by Fibertails. I actually bought some yarn specifically for this project last year, and it's this knitting for olive pure silk in the color powder. And I think I'm going to have to hold it double. I have to check the pattern, but I know that I got this especially for this pattern, so it should be knittable with this yarn. And the Cloudberry Tee by Fibertails is a t-shirt with some color work on the sleeves that look like little flowers. And for the color work, I don't have any specific yarn. I'm just going to pull something from my stash when I need it. Next up is a color work project. I am adding a few color work projects to my list because I am knitting on one right now, and I'm having a lot of fun and want to experiment a little bit more with color work. This one is going to be the Roots and Shoots sweater by Tatis Knit Garden. This one has a color work yoke and then also some color work on the bottom ribbing. And I am planning to use this yarn for it. This one I won't be able to link because it is a hand spun. This one has unraveled. 1 second. It is a hand spun by, I don't know, I just bought it at a market and she didn't have a card or a website or anything. I think she just goes to local markets to sell her yarn, and it's this green color that I'm going to use for the main color, and this natural white that is going to be the contrast color. I think they will make quite a nice contrast, and it's actually spun very evenly. So yeah, that's going to be the Roots and Shoots sweater by Tatis Knit Garden, and that's project number 8. Project number 9 is the Daft Days cardigan by Rebecca Clow or Crayabea, and I desperately need some more cardigans in my wardrobe. So probably there should have been more on this list, but yeah, I'm just very picky when it comes to cardigans, but this one looks really nice. This cardigan is a striped cardigan in a broken rib pattern, and I'm planning to make the stripes multicolored, so every other stripe is going to be a different color. Maybe there will be some repeats, I do not know yet, because I can't really show you the yarn that I'm going to use for this, as I am planning to use some scraps and some mini skeins. But to give you a little idea on what colors I want to use, I can show you these minis that are probably going to go into it. So it's going to be a more jewel toned cardigan. For the base color I am thinking of maybe a beige and then these jewel tones to offset that, so these can also really pop against the neutral bright color. And now we are already getting to our 10th and final project, and according to my rules this one is only going to be possible if I have already finished 5 other projects, because I do not own all of the yarn I need for this. I want to make the Mudo Sweater by the Petite Knitter, not to confuse with Petite Knit. The Petite Knitter makes a lot of beautiful colorwork sweaters and socks, and yeah, she's just a colorwork queen. And I've been wanting to knit something from her for quite a while, but I've always been a bit intimidated. But I think the Mudo Sweater is going to be a bit more of a beginner-friendly pattern when it comes to experience with colorwork. The yarn I want to use for this is another hand spun that I got at a market. It's from a different person than the other one, but I also can't tell you who this was. So this is going to be the main color, and according to my rules, I do own the pattern. I bought it a while ago, I just never got to making it. I do have most of the quantity of yarn that I need with having all of the main color, but I do need a contrast color. And for this I want to find a hand-dyed yarn in a bluish tone. I think I don't want it to be a tonal, but more of a speckled or variegated yarn. But I haven't decided on anything yet, as I first have to reach my goal of 5 projects before I can even think about this one. So yeah, that was all of the projects. These are 10 projects, and according to my 2024 goals and according to what I was able to knit last year, this will already be most of the items I will get to this year. My goal is to knit 12 bigger items, so leaving out socks and hats. That's all I was able to knit last year, so this would technically already be most of what I knit this year. These are my plans and ideas I have right now, but I do grant myself the freedom to not stick to this. I am sure that some of these plans are going to change, or I'm going to cast something on a whim and not get to every single one of these patterns. But that's fine, they're just ideas, and hopefully this gave you some ideas what you could make with your stash, or motivates you to go through your stash and find some yarn for a project that you have been wanting to make. Maybe try to think out of the box with some of your yarn and use them for something you wouldn't expect them, you didn't plan to use them for. And give yourself the freedom to change your plans. You don't have to feel like knitting a project with a yarn you got 3 years ago for that project and now don't even want that item anymore. Some of these yarns I've got for totally different things than what I'm using them for now. But that's okay. I mean, it's just yarn. You're allowed to change your mind. Now, on that note, leave me some of your project ideas for this year in the comments below. And maybe if you do find something in your stash that you forgot about and find a project for, you can also write that in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I am excited for everything that's to come this year. I am excited to start on these projects. You are for sure going to see some of these on my needles very soon, especially the Sophie Scarf and the Salty Days sweater. And that's it for this week. Again, thank you so much for watching. I wish you some very happy crafting and I will see you next week. Bye!